Episode 13, lucky number 13. I thank you guys for checking this out. Speaking of the number 13, last week only 13% of the people that watched the full-length video were subscribed to my channel. So if that's you and you find yourself coming back to my channel every single week, be sure to hit the subscribe button below. If you're not about that life, not about subscribing,
well, I'm not going to, ever. Even if there's a fire.
All good, no hard feelings. I'll still be out here producing content. But anyways, episode 13, this one was a fun one because it played off a previous episode. If you guys recall episode 6, the Stanford-Utah breakdown, for you football fans that have been following my content all year long, you'll remember that in that breakdown, I talked about Utah's corners and the way they play the fade balls, and then green dog blitzing. More specifically, the blitzing of Chase Hansen in that Stanford game, and I talked about how both those topics really helped out Utah's defense. Well, this week, the Arizona State Sun Devils came out with a counter, and they knew that was Utah's approach, and so we'll dive in to see exactly what I'm talking about. Their counter led to 2 touchdowns by N'Keal Harry, so we'll check that out, and we'll look at one offensive concept and how both teams ran it throughout the game. So a little different format. Cool to look back at one episode and relate it to this episode, but instead of looking at one team and then the next, we're gonna look at 2 concepts and see how both those concepts affected each team differently. All right, Max, so give me a little refresher on what you're talking about with Utah's corners and playing the fade ball. I'm talking about how they played in the red zone, and to give you guys a little refresher, let's check out a clip from episode 6, the Utah-Stanford game.
End zone, short, and it's a house call for Utah!
What's important to note is Jalen Johnson, Utah's corner on the top of the screen, he's saying, hey, all I'm worried about is the fade ball. So as we watched there, we saw Utah's corners anticipating the fade, right? Backing up and high pointing the ball. Going up for a rebound, playing center field, whatever analogy you want to use, Utah's corners are playing the fade ball. And so with that in mind, let's jump to this past Saturday's game, and let's see how ASU counters that approach.
See what they try to fade. 3rd and goal. Big stop here if the Utah defense can force a kick. And they're going at the slant. Harry beats.
You gotta love the call if you're an ASU fan. You guys heard it there. Ted Robinson, the play-by-play announcer, says, let's see if they throw a fade ball to N'Keal Harry. He's thinking it. I'm thinking it. The whole country's thinking it, right? You got N'Keal Harry, the best receiver in the country. You're expecting them to throw it up to the big boy and have him go make a play at the back pylon. But ASU's saying, all right, we did our homework. We know the way Utah's corners play the fade ball. They're bigger corners, so we're not going to mess with that. We're going to counter him. We're going to pretend to run the fade ball, but then slant across his face for an easy touchdown. You're expecting fade ball. Everyone is. A great counter by this Arizona State offense. And one thing I want to add, the way I know this ASU staff did their homework is this is the first trip in the red zone. This is the first time they're in the tight red, the first time they're able to give N'Keal Harry a chance at a touchdown in the end zone. And they didn't even mess with the fade ball. So that tells me they were game planning for this the entire week. They knew the exact look they were going to get and the perfect play call to beat that specific look. And now we're going to check out another element I referenced in episode 6, the green dog blitz. Let's take a trip down memory lane for a little refresher.
Shooting against Jerry Tillery, who blew up the O-line of Stanford. And Costello being chased here by Chase Hansen.
The green dog blitz. And if you guys remember, that's when the linebacker blitzes, but he waits just a tad. And what is he waiting on? He's waiting on to see if the running back, who he has in man coverage, if that running back stays in pass protection, then that linebacker triggers right away and tries to put a hit on the quarterback. So we saw the successful green dog blitz against Stanford. Now let's see when Utah green dog blitzes against ASU, what happens.
Off the play action. Deep shot. Big play. Flag down. Harry. No more decoy. Touchdown.
Did you guys catch it there? Cody Barton's just a half second late from putting a big hit on Manny Wilkins and erasing this entire play. But instead, because of the green dog blitz scheme, and he's waiting just a half second, it takes him too long to get to Manny Wilkins and allows for a big play to N'Keal Harry to start this 4th quarter and what ended up being the point in the game where ASU separated itself from Utah. While it may not be fun for Utah fans to relive those 2 touchdown passes, it's at least fun to see the schematics behind football, the cat and mouse game, the chess match. In that, in week 6, the way Utah was defending the fade balls and their blitz scheme really paid dividends that week. But ASU countered them. Football's a game of counters.
Absorb the blow. Groin punch. Hip blow. Up to the nose. No, you're not. Ah! Oh!
They adjusted. They used what Utah was using against them. and were able to find 2 big touchdowns to the nation's best receiver. Now let's dive into a little passing game. And this one was fun because I kept seeing the same concept throughout the game. And it wasn't just by one team, it was by both teams. Arizona ran this concept I'm going to touch on 3 times, and Utah twice. Once with Tyler Huntley and the other time with Jason Shelley. So it's all over the game. And so Max, what is this concept? And what it is you're going to run verticals on one side and then bring the receiver on the other side on a 5-yard shallow route. And the thought process is by running verticals on one side, you're going to clear out a lot of defenders, and the shallow coming underneath can replace those defenders in the vacated zones they're leaving. It's a very sound concept, very easy to read because the quarterback's reading one man, the outside linebacker on the vertical side. If that linebacker runs with the deep route by the slot, he's probably going to hit the shallow underneath. If that linebacker passes off that interior vertical to try to cover the shallow route, then that interior vertical should be open if that quarterback puts that ball on a line. That's the name of the game when it comes to passing offense. Putting a single defender in a bind and forcing him to decide, and wherever he goes, throw the opposite direction. So with all that in mind, let's watch an example here of Manny Wilkins operating the ASU offense.
For the day. Wilkins comes near side. First down to Kyle Whittingham.
There we saw this concept ran out of a 2x2 formation. The receivers on the bottom of the screen with N'Keal Harry in the slot, they're going to run the vertical routes. And Kyle Williams on the slot on the top of your screen is going to run the shallow route to replace that voided area. And what happens is exactly what we talked about before. Outside linebacker gets hands on N'Keal Harry. Therefore, he's vacating his zone underneath. And that's why you have Kyle Williams coming on the shallow route. Manny Wilkins gets the ball out to Williams, and he's able to pick up a nice first down here on a straightforward concept, a high-low of that outside linebacker. So we watched the concept ran by Arizona out of a 2x2 formation. Let's check it out of a 3x1 formation. 3 receivers on one side and 1 receiver into the boundary, the short side of the field. This one we're about to watch is a little different. There's a dig route on the top of the screen by the outside most receiver, which is a little bit different, but the read and the eyes of the quarterback are the exact same.
Right now they've got N'Keal Harry spread wide to the top against Julian Blackman. Wilkins goes underneath.
That's a textbook job by Guidry, the Utah nickelback. He's able to get hands on the slot receiver and carry him vertically so Manny Wilkins can't throw the ball there, but then pass it off just in time so he can rally to the ball and make a tackle on a key 3rd down. And that's something I want to shed light on, is if you run this play on 3rd down and don't pick it up, which happened to ASU here, that's a win for the Utah defense. But Max, what happens if ASU runs this play and Utah doesn't tackle? Let's take a look.
On a long second, Wilkins throws the underneath ball. Ayuk makes one man miss. And Ayuk.
Same concept there again, right? Brandon Ayuk's going to come on the shallow. The vertical routes on the top of the screen are going to clear out all of the Utah defenders. Wilkins is going to get the ball down to Ayuk because that's where the vacancy in the defense is. But this time we saw the difference. Utah doesn't tackle, doesn't make a play, and on the flip side, Arizona State's Brandon Ayuk is able to make a guy miss and pick up the first down. We saw how ASU operated this concept, the concept of vertical routes on one side and then bringing the shallow route over towards that side. Now let's watch how Utah operates it. And Utah's got their own little twist on it, and the play we're about to watch right here is Utah bringing that shallow route not to the field, where all the grass is, the wide side of the field, but bringing that shallow route to the boundary, the short side of the field.
Force Tyler Huntley to see if he can be surgical.
So the 5 receivers, Arizona State brings 4. Huntley throws underneath, and that was tipped on.
A savvy play by Shannon Foreman batting that ball down, but when we watch that play again, you can see what's about to unfold. Utah runs the verticals to the boundary, trying to clear out Darian Butler to replace his void with a tight end coming on a shallow route. And if this ball's caught and not batted by Foreman at 3rd and 11, he might not pick up the first down, but it's at least going to be a solid gain, and he might pick up the sticks. And now Utah is going to come back to this concept for a 2nd time, and the 5th time between the 2 teams. This time, Jason Shelley is going to be behind center instead of Tyler Huntley. Let's see how he operates.
This game, if you add up the last 2 weeks, they've showed out.
Shelley in big-time trouble, and then just arms walk.
You guys seeing what I'm seeing? Damari Simpkins looks awfully open to me. That little shallow route looks open to me in that man coverage look. But I don't mean to make you Utah fans uneasy with Jason Shelley behind center for this Saturday's matchup against Oregon.
We can't have anyone freak out there, okay? We've got gotta keep our composure.
Shelley seems very capable at managing this offense, but what I do want to shed light on is the fact when I watch this play, it reminds me of just a young quarterback in his first real-life experience. Things are moving 100 miles an hour. He's processing things super quickly, and I think he just got ahead of himself. He saw the void in the Arizona State defensive line open up, and he said, screw it. I'm throwing progression out the window, and I'm just going to run for it. But this is Pac-12 football. Those gaps shrink quickly, and that's what happened with Shelley here. But as a result, it got him all out of whack and out of his progression and forced him to throw the ball away, and it was a missed opportunity for Utah. I do need to put an asterisk on my last comment there with Shelley because he could have a quarterback draw alert on this play in that if the box vacates with backers and that there's no backers in the middle of the field, he may have an alert that tells him he can run because the middle of the field's wide open and Arizona State's leaving no backers there to defend against Shelley. So he could have that alert. Can't say I ever was dual threat enough to have that luxury.
Rushing forward, but Browne is still pressured. Steps up, shows some speed, and
so I'm not totally sure if that's the case, but as a third party evaluating this film, what I said about him missing the shallow route is how I would perceive this play. When we fast forward here in a couple weeks, are we going to see one of these teams as the Pac-12 South champion? I'm not sure. Utah fans, I was on ESPN 700 this week with Bill Riley. He asked me that question. I said if I'm a betting man, I'm probably going with USC, and that's not because I'm a homer. I'm just thinking I think they have the easiest route to winning the rest of their conference games, and that USC plays Cal and UCLA. To me, Utah and the Arizona schools have a harder path to get there. If you have a take on that and who your Pac-12 South champion is, be sure to leave a comment, and I'd love to discuss with you guys. But that wraps up another episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe if you like what you heard, and I'll be coming out with more content here next week.